Or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thanks for joining us for the third week of DevToberfest. We're back from the little break that we took for Tech Ed Virtual. I hope everybody had a chance to check out and enjoy Tech Ed Virtual sessions. And a lot of our DevToberfest content this week and next week will build on the announcements that you heard at Tech Ed. And today's session is a great example of that. Clean core, extensibility, good approaches to both these things were a core tenet of Tech Ed this year. And we have two excellent speakers here with us today, Boris Gebhardt and Tim Back. A little mixture of both ABAP and the CAP worlds as the two begin to come together. But so happy to have both of you here with us today to talk about these most efficient approaches to clean core compliant extensibility. So over to the two of you. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks a lot. Yes, the title of our session is actually how to extend the different SAP S/4HANA editions effectively and clean core compliant. What a long title. And as explained, you see it on top. That's an ABAP plus CAP session. So we are both sitting in one room. That's already good.
Yes.
So first of all, Boris Gebhardt, Chief Product Owner of the ABAP platform, and
my name is Tim Buck. I'm a Chief Development Architect in the BTP. And thank you, Boris, for reading the extremely long title without any problem.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able.
Yeah, no issue at all. So what will be the agenda for today?
So we have the first, okay.
Already skipping the first slide is already the first issue. That's good. So the agenda of today is, first of all, we try to motivate you. You means the developers, why this topic is interesting for you. And then we will go more in detail. So how to extend the different S/4HANA edition, especially public cloud and then the private edition. And then at the end, you will see that there's a lot to learn as a developer, especially for ABAP developer, going from classic ABAP to ABAP Cloud. And we will show you how we will help you so that you are part of that transformation. So let's start with the motivation for developers. So why actually you shall attend this session. And first of all, I would like to start, who are those SAP developers? And for that, I used the lastly published survey, the Developer Insight Survey for SAP developers. On the left side, you see popular programming languages. It's clear that I read that. Which programming languages have you used in your development work over the past 12 months? Please select all that apply. And you see, as we are used to it during the last years, that we are still an ABAP community, but that's good. We see step by step that JavaScript, TypeScript, Java are coming up as well. And if you check the right side of that slide, then you see where actually the development happens. You know, it can happen on stack. You do the extensions directly on the ERP or side by side on BTP. Still, we see that most of the development happens directly on S/4HANA or even on the ECC business suite systems. But what is really nice to see that BTP ABAP as an example, so the sub BTP ABAP environment is catching up. And we see that CAP as an example, so doing the extensions directly on the BTP next side by side to the S/4HANA is really already catching up. So that already shows the direction we are going. And that exactly matches nicely to the keynote of the last Tech Ed, where SAP Build plus ABAP Cloud has been announced. So we bring the power of SAP Build with all the ingredients, SAP Build apps, hub, now together with the power of ABAP Cloud, on stack or side by side, we have one portfolio which is the best in class to extend SAP solutions. That sounds nice and it's really a good idea, but to be clear, what you see on the right side is often still the reality, what we see in ERP systems, meaning the developers are still using classic ABAP, using Screen Painter, doing modifications in the systems. So our more or less the job, what we have to do now is, not only in this session, is to show you how we want to transform from the right side to the left side. And the transformation we are actually in is not only about extensions, it's a general transformation from SAP, classic ERP, business suite, ECC systems to S/4HANA, especially the cloud editions, private cloud and public cloud. And since S/4HANA is really completely different concerning the business process, the UI, think about Furies, think about HANA underneath and all that. And especially in the cloud, think about that here we have automate updates in the public cloud. It's clear that the extensions must follow. So it's clear that we must change how extensions are done as well. And that's why it's so important that we now go over from the classic extensibility with classic ABAP to cloud-ready S4 optimized extensions, which are built with SAP Build plus ABAP Cloud, which can work on stack or side by side in BTP, and which all try to be cloud-ready, meaning clear separation between extension and SAP code, use SAP APIs and extension points, and do not modify the code or use arbitrary SAP objects. Good. So much for the motivation. So what is now the recommendation? How to extend SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition? And we do this step by step. There are always some misconceptions which are here. As an example, clean core, does that mean I can't extend the ERP anymore? No, that's wrong. We all know how important it is that you can extend the ERP. It's even a key capability of each and every ERP to provide very rich extensibility options. The reason is SAP can't deliver all the functionality you need. There are industry-specific functionalities and so on, which partners provide and which shall be added. Or think about customers who want to be more specific concerning their business processes, need very specialized business processes to be better in certain areas compared to their competition. So extensibility is a must. And that is not different between on-premise and cloud. So extensibility is a must in an on-premise ERP, and it is a must in the cloud ERP. It's just how you extend what changes. The second misconception I sometimes hear is if you want to be clean core, then you have to do all your extensions on BTP. That's wrong as well. We provide both. We provide on-stack extensibility directly on SAP S/4HANA Cloud, and we provide extensibility side by side to the ERP on BTP. And the combination of both makes then a really rich extensibility portfolio. You can't do everything side by side. Some of the use cases, adding a field to a Fiori application of SAP, adding, for example, data into the SAP transaction shall be done on stack, and the combination of both is then the correct solution. If we dig a little bit deeper and just check out what kind of extensibility options we have or want or recommend in the S/4HANA Public Cloud, then you see, since S/4HANA Public Cloud is running on the ABAP foundation, it's somewhat natural if you do something on stack, on this ABAP-based stack, that you use ABAP for the extensibility as well. So you can't use Java there or Node or something like that. You're on the S/4HANA stack, running on ABAP. That's why you use for on-stack extensions ABAP as well. But you don't use the classic ABAP, you use ABAP Cloud. ABAP Cloud is the new cloud-ready ABAP development model, which builds on the assets of ABAP, but on the new technology variants like RAP, like Fiori, no longer Dimpo, and so on. Plus, it enforces that you use only SAP APIs and extension points. And you can use the pro-code features, and you can use low-code features in Cloud. On the other hand, we have SAP BTP side-by-side extensions. Now you are more or less on a separated platform, on a separated stack. Therefore, of course, you have now the complete flexibility, which programming language you want to use. Be it ABAP, be it CAP, be it Java, be it Node, be it Python, whatsoever. And here you have now the complete portfolio of possibilities on BTP. You can use low-code tools like SAP Build apps as an example. You can choose CAP, for example, for your pro-code extension, or you go for ABAP Cloud on the SAP BTP ABAP environment. By the way, the ABAP Cloud, what you see down there on the BTP, is the same ABAP Cloud development model which you use on stack. So if you learn once ABAP Cloud, you can use the same development model on BTP as you use it on stack. So that's the portfolio which you use in S/4HANA Public Cloud on stack or side by side, low code or pro code, and all of them are absolutely optimized for S/4HANA, and they are cloud ready, relying on released APIs and extension points so that they survive automated updates. That's already a little bit perhaps overwhelming seeing these different options. That's why it's so important that we give guidance when to use what. And one of the main questions we always receive is, when do I do my extension on stack? And when do I do my extension side by side? And since this is a tricky question, I give this to Tim.
So yeah, let's go to this slide. Answering or trying to answer that question. There's a number of criteria that you can use to actually make your decision where to do or whether to do on stack or side by side extensibility. So if we first go to the on stack extensibility, the main theme there is actually if your extension has to be what we call tightly coupled. Tightly coupled means, as the name implies, quite near to your core business in S4. For example, if you write an extension where your extension data and the data that you're using from, let's say, standard S4 functionality, for example, a purchase requisition or so, that needs to be saved or rolled back together. So you have to be in the same logical unit of work or transaction, then you really want to do your extension on the on-stack side with the ABAP Cloud programming model. Another case is, Boris mentioned the key user tools, the S4HANA key user tools. So if you want to add a couple of fields to your existing S4HANA application, there is no need to go to the BTP. You're much better served when you actually do this extension on the S4 side. Same thing is true when you really want to have all the fast SQL SQL access to your data. You better stay on the on-stack side. And then there's a whole host of reasons why you want to go to the BTP. So on the BTP by nature, tightly coupled, you are on stack, so you are loosely coupled. What you want to do on the BTP, for example, if you have a hub scenario, so not only spanning S4, but also other products of SAP, for example, SuccessFactors, and you want to create like an extension that spans SuccessFactors and S4, you'd rather do this extension outside of S4, so on the BTP. To pick out another one, you want to do a bigger mobile use case, you create these mobile applications on the BTP, not on S4. And you see there's a whole another set of reasons why to be on the BTP, because for time reasons, we don't go through all of them. But let me actually pick up on one of the last things that it says on the bottom right here, is the different skill sets, where some of the criteria we talked about are really like first-class criteria, right? Like this tight coupleness. That's if you need to be tightly coupled, you are on stack. If you want to do a hub scenario, you're definitely on the BTP. But then there's very often also the skill set of your development teams. They might be rather ABAP inclined or JavaScript and Java inclined. So that can also be a reason, but it shouldn't be the driving reason. It shouldn't be the first reason why you choose something. But if you are on the BTP, and you've already decided for the BTP, that's also a criteria that you can employ. So let's get back to this picture there that Boris already showed. And you see again the keynote, or you see like the announcement from the keynote from TechEd, that SAP Build and ABAP Cloud will be actually now somehow together. And I'm saying somehow, yeah, you might say it's all very nice that they are claiming this, and Boris has introduced all these different ways of extending your solutions, and we talked about when to use what, but what does it actually mean, this plus there? Is it just like a nice marketing? But we are highlighting the seamless integration. So we are already doing something, well, we have done something and we are still doing stuff to make actually this integration easier. Because one of the things that was also on the other slide, sometimes you even have extensions to create a new API, for example, on S4 that you have to do on stack. And then you go to the BTP, for example, to use that new API that you've just created on stack, also maybe in process automation in a new process where you are on the BTP. So very often you have this need for a seamless integration. And that might happen in numerous ways. We call that fusion development. Sometimes you want to create a back end and a front end, a UI on top of it. Sometimes, as I mentioned, you are on stack, you need to do something on stack, but also side by side on the BTP. And sometimes it's just different users. Maybe you create a backend, new backend service. A professional developer does that, but then there is maybe a not so skilled developer or a key user that wants to use like one of the key user tools on top to create the UI, for example, build apps. And all these need to be more seamless. And just to give you a couple of examples, what we've done is that you can now use the build lobby not only to create applications and solutions on the right-hand side, but you can also now create ABAP Cloud projects. Another example that I want to pick out is that if you're creating a new ABAP Cloud service, the tool normally to do that is the ABAP development tools, ADT, Eclipse based. And from there, if you want to create a new UI, you usually do that in the Business Application Studio. So to make that seamless, we've now got what we call a tools bridge. You can create the new RAP service, the ABAP Cloud-based service on the ADT, and directly from there, you can jump with a link into the Business Application Studio, where immediately the whole context of the new service is available, and you can create a new UI on top of it. There is, just to mention it, a couple of other things that we're working on. For example, being able to model a new ABAP Cloud service also with a graphical modeler in the Business Application Studio, but that will see the light later. Not this year probably, but early next year or so. Yeah, and that concludes this part. Now I just want to mention this is a slide that, well, either you have seen at TechEd already or you will from now on see very often. I just want to mention, you can see it says now SAP Build through all of the different products or all the extension possibilities that we've talked about. And that was the journey. Some of you might be confused. What is SAP Build? Well, when we introduced SAP Build in 2022, it only, you could say, consisted of what is key user stuff. So it was build apps, process automation, and work zone. So it was only like low code development platforms. Then in 2023, we added build code for pro code on the, let's say, non-ABAP BTP, CAP-based BTP. And now to actually close the loop completely, as Boris already mentioned, we have also the ABAP environments, both on S4 and the BTP. And that's all bundled together in one product, right? So with SAP Build, you get everything to be able to extend your S4, but also other LOBs in the best possible way. Last but not least on this, of course, this comes all with Joule, and we're going to brag about this a bit more at the end of the talk. It also comes with so-called pre-built solutions, especially for build process automation, where you've got like you can see a huge number of pre-built solutions, kind of templates that you can use for your processes, so you don't have to start from scratch always when you want to do a new solution. So with that, now it's back to ABAP, so it's back to Boris again.
You don't want to do that?
Okay. I would, but...
So what we have learned is that ABAP Cloud is now part of SAP Build, and we mentioned ABAP Cloud already several times now. I think now it's time that we go a little bit deeper what ABAP Cloud actually is. First of all, it is not SAP BTP ABAP environment. There's always this misconception which I hear. ABAP Cloud is the new way how you develop cloud-ready applications and extensions. So it's a new development model which builds on everything what we introduced during the last years, like RAP, like a new language which is optimized for the cloud, and so on. Of course, it's totally compliant with Clean Core. And the nice thing is that it comes with SAP BTP and SAP S/4HANA. So it works for the S/4HANA public cloud, for private cloud, and even on-premise. Perhaps sounds strange to develop ABAP Cloud like in on-premise, but what you do there is you prepare even on-premise already your new custom extensions for the cloud. You can already use here ABAP Cloud so that the upgrades which you see even on-premise are less cumbersome. To make this a little bit more clearer for you, here on the right side, you see some characteristics of ABAP Cloud. So first of all, you really see syntax errors if you do ABAP Cloud coding, if you use SAP objects which haven't been released. So if you call some function module, which is no official SAP API, you will see a syntax error for your ABAP. So this is really to separate clearly the extensions from the SAP code via public SAP APIs and extension points. And not just a hint, it's really a syntax error, you can't compile it. Second is we introduced a cloud-optimized ABAP language. So you no longer can use call screen or directly access the operating system or the file system. So again, you will see syntax errors if you try that. And additionally, in ABAP Cloud, we have the new variants of the different technologies we collected during the last decades. So that to simplify it and to have the standard setup more or less for modern business applications in S4 and in the cloud, optimized for S4 and for the cloud. That's why we have the ABAP RESTful application programming model. We build Fiori apps. We no longer access the system with SE80. We do not build Windows, but we are now in the new world. And all these ABAP Cloud developments, that's what you see on the left side, can be used equally on BTP and on S4HANA. If you take the left one, you directly use ADT to access S4HANA public cloud. There you can build ABAP Cloud code. You use the public interfaces, can be a core data service, for example, to access sales orders from S4HANA public cloud, or a technical API from the platform to create application jobs as an example. And here you build your ABAP Cloud application. And the same can be done on BTP using the same ABAP Cloud development model. The only difference is, since we are now on BTP side by side, we use remote APIs like data services from the ERP to, for example, access the sales orders. Good. So much about ABAP Cloud. And now we go back to the SAP Business Technology Platform. Again, you see on the right side ABAP Cloud, the development model, and you see the main artifacts which we normally use. If you do ABAP Cloud coding, use core data services for the data model and to access the HANA database. Use, for example, data services for the UI part and SAP HANA Cloud to store the data. And if we now go over to the left, so to CAP, we already see a lot of quite similar elements like core data services. So, Tim, is that just by chance, or is there some plan behind that?
It seems like it, right? Yeah, there is some plan behind it. Like Boris said, like the foundation of both CAP, the Cloud Application Programming Model, and ABAP Cloud is CDS. So our modeling language for entities, for services, for types. That's very similar on both sides. And on top of that, you also see another set of technologies that we recommend on both sides. So whether that's in the front end, UI5 and Fiori Elements, but also, of course, both CAP and the ABAP Cloud programming model, they both support especially S4HANA Cloud as a database. For the left-hand side, this is, you could say, even more noteworthy, a lot of it, than on the right-hand side, because the BTP, of course, allows you basically to use almost any technologies that you find. And for a long time, you could say we at SAP also confuse our customers, but also sometimes internally in SAP, people with giving everyone all the options that there are and choosing all the technologies. That's sometimes really good because if you really have a problem where you need to optimize really a lot, you have all the technologies at your fingertips. But in most of the use cases, it comes with a lot of overhead of deciding which technology, and some of the technologies, well, we deem much more suitable for creating business applications because they come up with a lot of benefits. And these you see in both on the left and right-hand side. So they do a lot of things out of the box for you, which in any given business application you need, and where you really don't want to spend a lot of time on as a developer, and also not supporting and so on. So these are the technologies that we actually said these are the most important ones, and you're strongly guided to use them. So on the BTP, you still have the option to choose something else if you want, but that's our strong guidance for business applications. Yeah, and with this, let's go to the next one. You know, when I just said there is a lot of stuff that comes out of the box, you know, again, if you're in the ABAP world, you've been used to that, like you can say for decades now, right? More than 2 decades. On the BTP side, what comes, for example, with CAP. So everything that goes or that is mentioned here, it goes for both worlds, but it's more noteworthy
given the history of BTP, let's say on the CAP side. So when you do CAP, you get a lot of abstraction from underlying layers, for example, the database that you use. And so you can obviously safeguard your development. If you wanted to choose another database, you wouldn't have to actually change your CAP program and your modeling. We are actually, this is also important, that SAP are doubling down on these technologies that we've just seen in the slide before. So we make like the whole end-to-end experience, whether that's the development experience, but also the investment into the technologies and them working well together. We double down on this and invest a lot of money. And you just know that you get like a lot of product standards ticked automatically by using CAP, for example, or also in the front-end UI5 elements. And then, of course, you can also bank on these technologies, as with ABAP, being around for not just a couple of months or a couple of years, but for a much longer time. Right? And these are the benefits that you get with this. I just want to mention that there is a BTP guidance framework that you see here, where you have a lot of documentation, but also tutorials to actually find out how on the BTP to create these applications. At this point also, I think I want to mention there is something at the very end of the slides. Meanwhile, there's also quite a nice paper out, extensibility paper, which also gives you some guidance when to use what we had before. I should have mentioned that in the earlier slide, but just that you know it's at the end of this presentation. I just want to, at this point, also tell you what Build Code is, right? Part of the overall Build package. It was already introduced last year, and it nicely blends in with basically what we just talked about, what the recommended technologies are to create applications, so our development guidance. So if you look at this kind of blue square here, which is Build Code, you can think of a packaging these technologies that you see at the upper part, like the Cloud Application Programming Model, UI5, Fiori Elements, but also for the mobile side, the MDK and the SDKs. But you also now see a number of services from the BTP, which we are saying these are the services that you need for development on the BTP. So that's the non-ABAP BTP or CAP-based BTP. Standard services that you need either for your applications or also for the development process, like a CI/CD service. All this is held together. You see on top the Build Code development environment. This is for those who are confused what the Build Code development environment is. This is the Business Application Studio, right? So it's another name for the Business Application Studio, and that's our to-go IDE when you use these technologies in Build Code. And Build Code comes as a package, so you don't have to pick these individual services. You can just go for Build Code and you get all of what's in there, and also in the Business Application Studio, a development experience around these technologies to make it easier for you to program. And you'll see that later in the demo. And with this, I'll hand over to Boris again to talk about the private cloud.
Thanks a lot. I think we have seen for the public cloud already that we have a really rich portfolio to extend S/4HANA public cloud. And we have seen that CAP and ABAP Cloud are really mainstream to extend on BTP, and you have OnStack. Now, what's about the private cloud, SAP S/4HANA private cloud? And first of all, it's really easy. If you build something new, we use the same extensibility portfolio for private cloud as we use it in the public cloud. So everything what we explained is valid for the private cloud as well. So use OnStack, use side-by-side, use ABAP Cloud, use side-by-side ABAP Cloud or CAP or the SAP Build. But of course, S/4HANA private cloud is different to the public cloud. That's why we have to add something. And that is in S/4HANA private cloud, of course, classic extensibility, classic ABAP is still part of the portfolio, is still allowed. It's easy to explain. Customers can convert from their business suite to S/4HANA, and they can bring, of course, their legacy custom code, which they collected during the last decades, to the S/4HANA system. And that's why, of course, classic ABAP must be still allowed. Good. After understanding this, and this slide nicely matches to what I explained. So you see here the different S/4HANA editions, any premise, private edition, public edition, and on the right side, you see the BTP. And you see, we provide a new ABAP Cloud development model. So the new way how you shall develop ABAP is available throughout the different editions. Classic ABAP, on the other hand, is only available on premise and private cloud. So here we, of course, need this compromise in order to ensure that we get legacy code under control and so on and so on. So now let's step to an S/4HANA private cloud system and try to understand how in the day-by-day reality, when you do extensions, how you will live more or less this extensibility model and how you can actually use it. So first use case, you build a new extension. Then you use, as explained, the same extensibility model which we described for S/4HANA public cloud. That means if it's an on-stack extension, you use ABAP Cloud. If it's from a use case perspective and so on, a side-by-side extension, then you go over to BTP and you choose your environment. CAP could be SAP Build apps, could be ABAP Cloud again. So that's the default for all your new extensions. That's exactly what we promote with SAP Build plus ABAP Cloud to make this your de facto standard how you extend your S/4HANA editions. But S/4HANA private cloud needs some compromises. The first one is the scope of S/4HANA private cloud is much bigger than S/4HANA public cloud. There are a lot of components in there, some legacy components, and not all of them have already a good API coverage or will never have, to be honest, because they are legacy components. And that's why we need tier 2, which has the name Cloud API enablement, because we want to ensure that if you build something in tier 1, that you're not completely blocked if an SAP API is missing and you extend an SAP component. And the idea here is that you then use classic APIs, for example, a classic BAP as an example is a classic API. You wrap this with some custom code and then release it more or less for tier 1 so that you can use this BAP encapsulated in the set code for your tier 1 extensibility project and can go on with your work. So that's the first thing which is specific for private cloud. And the second is, of course, all the classic ABAP stuff which you still have, all the legacy code which you still have, that's residing in tier number 3, where all the classic ABAP stuff is located. And in general, of course, the idea is that we get this legacy under control, especially all the stuff which you have in tier number 3. The idea is to reduce the number of objects which we have in this bucket. The easiest way to reduce the number is by deleting the stuff. So that's the retire arrow which you see there. You know, that's already the recommendation which we have since years. When you go from Business Suite to S/4HANA, please do not transform everything you have to the new system. Retire the stuff what you do not need. We have tools to measure if your code is used in your productive system. So if the custom code is not used, please retire it, or you go. The analysis shows that new features in S/4HANA cover your use case, then that's back to standard. So getting rid of code is the best way to reduce tier number 3. The second error is renovate or innovate. If you have a clear business case that one of the extensibility scenarios which you have in tier number 3 shall be modernized, it shall run on a mobile. You have a totally extended use case. So more or less you want to rewrite it, and please do it in tier 1, not again in tier number 3. But that's business case driven. And last but not least, we have adapt. And to be honest, and we introduced this to tier extensibility model, I think 1 or 2 years ago, and we are in constant discussions with a lot of customers to optimize it, because we try to find the best compromise with these tiers so that it maps to the reality of our customers and lead them step by step to a clean core. That's the idea behind it. But the main discussions we always have is how to get the legacy under control and what adapt really means if you ever have 100,000 custom code objects, to be honest. So one of the quotes we often hear is, for example, I can't afford to modernize and rewrite my 100,000 legacy custom code objects. And second, to be honest, my classic ABAP reports, which use ALV, so CLG, UE, ALV grid, will not harm my next upgrade. So please, SAP, explain me what adapt really means. So which, let's say, 5% of my custom code shall I correct now, just because it pays off with better upgrade stability, with better quality and security. So they will focus first on this. And that's why what we're currently planning, it's really planning, it's not available yet. What we currently try to figure out is, first of all, we understand that this is valid. That's why we are evaluating that. We always try to improve our Thinking model. First of all, we recommend technical classical APIs. So all the legacy technologies we have in our ABAP stack, Subscript, WebDympo, SubGUI, all that stuff, here we want to recommend in this legacy world, which APIs do we recommend? And then you will not see any additional errors for those de facto classical APIs which we have in the stack. Second, we will then create or plan to create a standard private cloud ATC check variant, so our test cockpit check variant, which shows you exactly those code snippets which you should adapt first. So modifications will create ATC errors, because we still are absolutely sure that at least in 4i principle should be active for modifications. Second, if you still use not a recommended, not a released SAP object, so for example, you use internal ALV functionality instead of using the standard function modules, you see errors. Or if you violate the standard security and quality rules for ABAP, then you see errors. So we define with that more or less a minimum level which you should reach first for tier number 3, so that adapt gets clearer what adapt really means. Good. So that's what we recommend for the private cloud, new stuff. We go for SAP Build plus ABAP Cloud. I think that's a good name for that. We have a clear strategy, how you get step by step and in a realistic way via the 3-tier extensibility model to a cleaner core. And this, we are always iterating with customers to optimize this model. And you see here on that slide, one of the next steps which we plan so that the guidance for adapting to number 3 is more and more realistic. Good.
Now, maybe one thing I had forgot to say, is the last chance to actually talk about it. When you showed tier 2 and you mentioned the RFCs and BAPIs, I just want to also make clear that because S4 is now, like you say, has now come up with a lot of legacy APIs, BAPIs, to basically use for your extensions. It's also now possible in a nice way, as of now, with using CAP, right, to consume BAPIs directly from the BTP. I just wanted to add that. That also
that's a good point. Yes,
fits nicely to the seamless integration.
Yeah, sorry. That shows that we step by step try to optimize our extensibility model so that it perfectly matches to the actual reality which we have in the customer systems. So the last section is about enabling you, the SAP developers, because we have seen the extensibility portfolio. If you're a classic ABAP developer, a lot must be learned. We should be honest there. A lot is changing, the development model, perhaps even the IDE, or you want to learn what BTP means for you, be it CAP, be it ABAP Cloud, so a lot to learn. And we would like to give you some hints what we have in mind concerning this enablement of our development. The first thing is about AI. We are convinced that AI can support developers in different dimensions. So first of all, accelerating, of course, you in your day-by-day work, because we infuse, be it in ABAP or be it in CAP, AI directly in the IDE, so that during code completion, explaining code, correcting code, AI is used. But if you're a classic ABAP developer, then you really want to use the AI assistant, let's say it like that, that you can ask this assistant questions. So what is a behavior definition and so on. And you will see that in the demo, we want to generate already skeletons of the application so that you don't start from scratch, but have a good starting point to know, okay, that's how a new Fiori app looks like. Okay, so that makes it easier to get into this ABAP Cloud stuff. Concerning transforming code, I think, you know, if you now go from Business Suite to S4 and to Clean Core, a lot of code must be transformed. And therefore, we are investigating to figure out how our custom code migration tools can be improved by AI so that less code must be changed manually. And the last point is empower. That is about that you want to use AI in your business application, in your business scenario. So you want to get access to AI so that your business application benefits from AI via, for example, an SDK, to make it easy for ABAP developers or CAP developers to access AI and empower your own application with that. I start with a small example, the ABAP Cloud generator with Joule. Perhaps you know this already. So the idea of that is you are a classic ABAP developer. You want to now to start to build your first Fiori application, but you don't want to start from scratch. And in this little video, you will see how the tooling in IDE with AI assists you, that you use natural language to explain what you actually want to do, and then the artifacts are directly generated in the code. So let's start this. So what you see in the IDE, first of all, you choose the generator. And then afterwards, you, of course, have to use a package. That's normal in ABAP, and where all the objects will reside. And then you use the prompt. And what you say here is more or less that, okay, here you use natural language to explain, create an actual application for product revenue. So you want to have one entity where all the products are stored. You specify which kind of fields you need and columns. And the second one is then you need a persistence more or less for the actual values. And you have no idea about ABAP Cloud. You just specify what you want to do. And then after explaining that, now we go on, then the AI generates or explains more or less what you want to do and transform this to ABAP Cloud objects. And then we use the normal ABAP APIs to generate these objects. And now the wizard creates all the core data services, database tables, all that stuff, so that you have a jump start for your Fiori application. So let's give that a second. Then you see on the left in the repository tree which objects have been generated. So for example, in the package, you see now some core data services, behavior definitions for your application, database tables to sort the product and the product reviews, and of course the service binding. And now let's use the preview to see if the application already works. And you see in the browser that the Fiori application comes up. You can select data already, and you can create new entries. The application is even draft enabled, so it's really full-fledged. And you can enter now the first data, product ID, name, and so on, and store the product. So you see you have already a functional application and can extend it and can already use that to understand how a Fiori application works in order to get the transformation from a classic ABAP developer to an ABAP Cloud developer done. And with that, I think now it's time that you show the same for CAP.
Yes, yes. Almost, yeah. Okay, first, like one more slide. On the build code side or on the build, let's say, non-ABAP side, we also have a number of AI features. The one in the build code side, I will actually show you mainly in the demo pretty soon after this slide. But also it's very important to talk about, for example, what you have in build process automation, that you, as a developer, you can not only use AI to actually generate processes, automations just from natural language, but it also comes with a lot of AI in your solution. For example, you can use the document information extraction service. So you have documents and you can actually define what should be extracted, what kind of data should be extracted, and the AI does it for you. And there is also AI-driven recommendations in the process that the AI would recommend what to do next in the process. So a lot of built-in AI. But with this, let's go to a demo, and I will try to actually do that live. So what you see here is the SAP Build lobby. So in the lobby, you can actually, maybe let me refresh that just to make sure that it's not timed out. You can see all your projects that you have done in Build, and you can create new one. Let's create a new one. Let's say create here. You can either create processes, sites, or applications. Applications, you have the option to do it either low code with Build apps, or you can do it the Build code way.
You will also pretty soon see ABAP coming up here, so you can create an ABAP project from there. And now let's create a full stack application, and let's call it maint noti, like maintenance notification. I would create a maintenance notification here to spare you the minute or so that it takes. I've already done that, and I would jump in the already expired session in the Business Application Studio. And what we do here now in this short demo, we'll create a maintenance notification application. So we'll create a new application in CAP with the Fiori Elements UI. And on top of it, this application will actually connect to S4 and create a maintenance notification in S4 as well. And let me show you this in a couple of minutes. Let's be fast. Let's first use Joule actually to create the service. Very similar to what we just have seen from Boris in ABAP. So I will describe what I want to have. In this case, I will create a very short demo of a maintenance notification application, and it should just have two properties, so really easy. So we see the CDS like we saw on ABAP, and we can accept that. When I press the button, it will be taken over to the canvas here in this is our storyboard. So you already have a CAP service there. Now let's make also clear that we now, let me get rid of Joule, have a connection to our S4 HANA Cloud backend system. And we can explore in the so-called service center, we can explore APIs. Like I mentioned, functions are also available. These are RCs and BAPIs, but in this case, it's a good old OData service. I can see there is a maintenance notification, so a standard S4 API. This is what I need, and I add that to my project. So it's added to my project. And I can also now add this one of the entities, or more than one of the entity, but I'm choosing one of the entities to actually my existing or my new CAP service, not existing, but the new CAP service. So the CAP service is now the interface for my new lightweight notification, but also for the bigger API from S4. Now let's add some logic, because what I said before, we want to create logic that whenever there is a new maintenance notification created in the CAP application, there should also be one in the backend created in S4. So in CAP, we have handlers, and we have like a before create handler. So before the maintenance, the notification is created, we can now invoke a handler, and we would go into application logic. Normally, I would do JavaScript here, but you can see also, again, you see Joule looming, and we can actually, let me type in some snippet name as well. We can now ask Joule to actually create logic for it. And the logic is what I said. Every time there is a new notification, I will create one, I will invoke the API from S4, do it in a way that it's described in the prompt. I will invoke the API, and I will take over the number of the notification from the back end into the front end or into the CAP application. So last but not least, so we've now got the full service, and it only takes another minute or so, and then let's create a new front end application. Let's call it notification. This is now going to generate a new application. We choose Fiori Elements as a technology. We say this should be a list report with an object page, and the main entity should be our CAP entity, which is a notification. Now, unfortunately, it takes half a minute or so to create this new application. And yeah, Boris already showed me for the Q&A. I'll be finished in a minute. Because we'll do one last step also when the Fiori Elements application is created. We will actually adjust one of the fields in there, the record number. So the record number should actually come from the backend. So you see here's a list and here's an object page. And if I go to the object page, I see the two properties that were created, problem description and record number, but the record number I should not be able to change as a user. So I make this read only because remember it should come from the backend. So now I'm finished and I can just preview this. I can now start the preview. And I will, in a second, see a nice kind of overview page where I see all my development. I see the application, but also the service that was created, the OData service, and I can explore the OData service. But I will choose, so this is the OData service, I will choose to directly go into the application. I can press go, and I see also AI generated some sample data for me. And now the important part comes. I will create something new, so the record number is read only, and I say the printer doesn't work. So this is my problem, my notification that I created. I say great. And now what I would expect, if you bear with me, yes, it went to the backend, the S4 backend, and it took over the record number. And you can see in under 5 minutes, even with me talking a lot with it, you can actually create such a complete application. And now let's go one more time. Let's go back to the slides for Boris to wrap it up.
Thanks a lot. Really impressive demo. So we collected here on the last slide, as mentioned, material so that you as a developer can educate yourself for all the new topics, especially here for the ABAP Cloud. We added all the sessions which we have, the documentation, so that it's more easier for you to transform to ABAP Cloud and to educate yourself. Additionally, we added all the information about Clean Core extensibility so that you know how the complete extensibility model works. And last but not least, we have the sessions which we have here at the Oktoberfest and the sessions which have been provided TechEd so that you have all the data available and all the different materials to educate yourself. So with that, I think we are at the end. It was really a rush. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
Well. Yeah.
So hopefully you have seen the main thing is, yes, a lot to learn as an ABAP developer, but I think you have seen the combination of ABAP Cloud and CAP and the combination of low-code and low-code tools, the combination of on-stack and side-by-side extensibility brings now a portfolio to the market, which is the best available to extend S/4HANA solutions and our ERP so that it's really ready for S/4HANA and for the cloud. And with that, thank you very much. And we are now more than happy to answer some questions.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that came up in the chat. So the first one, and I'll remind everybody the context of when this question came up. It was Boris when you were talking about the new checks for the tier 3 objects and the adjustments around them. So Javier asked, can we monitor this planned feature in some public roadmap site to know when it will be available?
So I think this will, at the moment, the answer is no, not yet. So what I shared is that we prepare currently this new way how to find the most important parts of the tier 3, which you should adapt first, to say it like that. So we are currently in the phase of preparing that. It's not part of an official roadmap yet, but this will come soon. What we try to show you, first of all, okay, we already understood what customers explaining us, plus what kind of guidance we have in our mind. And the next step is now, and for example, Thomas Fiedler, who is one of the guys who is giving a session here as well, he's already in the middle of checking out that we categorize now all the classic APIs for AUV, Veteran Pro, in the ABAP Test Cockpit space that Variant is provided. But we don't have a final date yet, and just this will be provided. But stay tuned. I'm quite sure this will happen soon.
Okay. Very good. We got a couple questions on the AI capabilities that were showed towards the end. Naturally, everybody's excited about new tooling for developers. So one of them from Patrick was, does this AI tooling take common CDS views and other custom business entities into account when it generates this code? So in other words, how smart is it on the base objects that it uses?
Do you mean like on the ABAP side, or do you mean on the CAP side? Does
I'm
that become?
I'm guessing, or I'll just say both for the person that's
So perhaps
asking.
you start and then I add something, perhaps.
So yeah, so I mean, like one on the CAP side, you of course you create new ones, but you've also seen like what I did with the API maintenance notification. That's of course not a CDS view, but it's an API that is based obviously on a RAPBO with CDS views underneath. So, and you could see the logic that was generated took that into account. So it knows the structure of the API already. Otherwise, it wouldn't have known what the number, for example, the record number is in that API, because it's not called record number, it's called maintenance notification. Is yeah, is the record number really something like that? So yes, we the AI knows about the involved S4 parts on the CAP side.
Yes, and concerning the wizard which I have shown, I think the first version where we had a beta really was quite simple. So more or less only new stuff was created. So this was really, from my perspective, more to getting into the topic, let's say a better playground. But now, in order to make this available not only for that use case, but really to get a kickstart in a productive environment, we are now thinking about extending this so that, as said, for example, you can not only new stuff is created, but existing CDS views and so on can be used in that wizard as well. So we are thinking in that direction after the initial start. It makes sense. So today is not only usable to get into the topic, but use it if you are already in the topic in ABAP Cloud and want to use it to have a quick start if you build a new application, as an example. So that's exactly the direction we are thinking about.
All right, very good. And probably for our last question here, it's a more philosophical one than a specific question. Has to do with AI as well. But the question from Emerson is, how many years do you think it will take for AI to be able to understand ABAP classical code and convert it into cloud-based code with 100% reliability?
I think that's my question, correct?
I suppose.
At least it's easier than transforming it to a cup or to
but maybe part of it is actually spans both worlds, right? Like if it's just the ABAP cloud programming model, it's one thing, then it's only you. But if it's actually even going side by side, which you know,
we should be. I think we
question.
should be realistic. What we're doing currently is, first of all, train models so that they understand ABAP. Step one. That's already hard, to be honest. And we try to then extract features as fast as possible, code completion, explaining code, and so on. The next step is, of course, migration. That's the next level which you're going to reach. Here, for me, we have already custom code migration, where we have already quick fixes which do this automatically, adding an order by to a select statement as example. The first step would be, okay, we have some scenarios where we don't dare to do changes more or less because we don't have the functionality, use AI to provide at least good hints or patterns to the developer, which must be accepted by the developer afterwards. I have no idea at all, what I would say is that it is done automatically, hidden back in the back end and somehow goes over the code and then everything is converted automatically. I wouldn't even dare to say, to give you a number or a year when something like that will be possible. At the moment, it's always an assistant. It's always the developer who is in charge to at the end accept what have been provided by the AI. And currently the idea is that this in what AI generates should be as good as possible, but it's always the developer who is in charge. And that's what we are heading for. It's not about replacing developers, it's about assisting them. And therefore, that's what we are heading for, and that's what we are trying to optimize step by step. So seeing that the model is getting better and better and better, we add features and making the suggestions coming from AI, providing them and developers to make them more effective.
It's like with the self-driving car, right? We are better not in the business like some have been before, saying, well, in these couple of years we will have a self-driving car. But what we see with cars as well, we see a lot more convenience for each driver in every car. So it takes over jobs, but at the end you are still in control, or you have to be in control as a developer, as a driver. And the same thing goes, I think, for our AI journey. So whether we actually reach a point where, like with a self-driving car, as a developer, you don't even have to check what is generated anymore, and you can rely on it. Well, that remains to be seen. But until then, we can do a lot of good things in assisting developers to make some parts of their development much faster and much more convenient.
And getting rid of the stuff which doesn't make it really fun.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a really good answer, and I think that addresses the questions that we had in the chat right as we reach the top of the hour. So I want to thank you both, Boris and Tim, for joining us. That was an excellent presentation. I shared a couple of screenshots there in LinkedIn too that you had. I thought those were really great summary slides. Thanks everybody for joining us, and don't forget, although we're wrapping up our Monday with one more session later in 3 hours, 2 hours. Sorry, 2 hours from now, but come back again next Monday for more ABAP and CAP Devtoberfest sessions. And of course, Tech Ed, which occurred last week. Tim and Boris both had sessions, and they had a great list there at the end, towards the end of this session. All those are available on the platform for replay as well. So if you missed any of that or the announcements from the keynote or anything that they referred to today, you can check all of that out on the Tech Ed platform as well. So until next time, thanks for joining us, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right, I have ended the stream.
So we can
So
stop
good.
sharing.